Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions.
6 of New England's top Candlepin bowlers will battle it out until there's only one left as the 1989 season's champ.
Be here Sunday for Candlepin Stars and Strikes and the 1989 Tournament of Champions.
Mike Morgan meets Scott Rondelli in the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Candlepin Stars and Strikes, Sunday at noon on The Wind. 50, serving New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts.
Last week, in the first match of the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions, Mike Morgan recorded 7 spares on the way to a 150 opening game. Paul Berger stayed close, though, recording a double strike in Game 1, a 138, and then a 137 in Game 2 to take a 6-pin lead. At the start of Game 3, though, Morgan puts 3 marks together to retake the lead for good.
Right back in the pocket.
Watch out!
Strike on spare.
The 412 to 399 win ran Morgan's Stars and Strikes record to 6-1 and put him into today's match against left-hander Scott Rondelli. It's week 2 of the 1989 Tournament of Champions.
TV 50 Sports and the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association present Candlepin Stars and Strikes. From Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, it's the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions.
Gonna split it. Look at this.
Yes! Wow! Right in the pocket.
My goodness.
Oh, there
Look
was
at that.
never a doubt about that one.
Good looking ball.
Yes.
And now your hosts for Candlepin Stars and Strikes, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Park Place Lanes in Wyndham for another edition of Candlepin Stars and Strikes, week 2 of our Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. And boy, if it's anything like week 1, we're going to be in for some exciting bowling. We've got Mike Morgan today looking for 2 in a row against Scott Rondelli.
Yeah, last week with Paul Berger and Mike Morgan, the 2 bowlers couldn't have bowled much better than they did. Great shot making. This week should be no exception. We got a lefty against a righty this week, and Scott Rondelli shapes up to be an interesting match.
All right, let's meet them. First of all, our number 5 seed. He threw a 412 last week in beating Paul Berger from Lynn, Massachusetts, Mike Morgan.
Okay, Mike comes in with an average of 123, although he's averaging 137 on the show, and his qualifying score is 397 to put him in 6th position, and now he's moving up bowling against Scott Rondelli, who was in the 4th position.
And you mentioned he's averaging about 14 pins higher here on the show. He's been incredibly consistent. He's been here 7 times. He's thrown 6 400 triples.
I think we find if bowlers come on the show and they bowl their average, they don't last too long. They've got to bowl over their average, and that's what Mike is continually doing.
All right, Mike's opponent this week will be our number 4 seed in the Tournament of Champions. He's a left-hander, Scott Rondelli.
Okay, from these parts, Scott is from Billerica, Mass, but he does a lot of his bowling at Londonderry Bowling Center, carries an average of 123, just like Mike Morgan, and he qualified for the show with a 398 quite a few weeks ago.
Of course, we're on the way to a match 3 weeks from today, which will be $1,500 to the overall champion in this Tournament of Champions event, sponsored by Tri-State Megabucks. We've got a bonus ball contest coming up later on in the show that'll be worth $60, and we've got a lot of bowling to do between now and then. So don't go away. We're coming right back with the first string, Mike Morgan against Scott Rondelli, after these messages. All right, let's review the situation here before we get to the action this week on Stars and Strikes. Last week, Mike Morgan with a 412, knocking off our number 6 seed, Paul Berger. So Mike looks for his 2nd in a row this week against Scott Rondelli. Ed Arsenal will get the winner of this match next week. Then 2 weeks from today, Bob Moran comes in as the number 2 seed, and Pat Pay, standing by, waiting in the wings as that number 1 seed. He knows that he'll be in the championship match. He needs an opponent. We've got a lot of bowling to do until we get him that opponent. Mike Morgan set to get us started now in week 2.
Can he top what he did last week? Well, 412 against Paul Berger's 399. A great and an exciting match last week. No, I didn't believe that. Did you hear what Dottie just said?
No.
Did you see the Mike? He goes out and practice slides, and he does some deep knee bends there at the foul line, loosen up. Dottie says, "Remember when I used to do that?" I said, "No." I have to ask her about that. 1, 3, 8, and 10 left.
And that 3-pin is way off the spot. Well, may or may not have affected the shot, but it was definitely way off the spot to the right. 10 for Mike to start. Let's take another look at that shot.
I think you're right, Doug. I think you're right. The 3-pin actually came across in front of that 8-pin. It would have changed the angle if it was on its normal or in its normal position. Lane 31 for Mike Morgan.
Right on the head pin. He did this once last week, the 1-8-9.
I have to kid him. Is he throwing marshmallows or what? He got 1, 8, and 9, and one of those pins is still on the plate, so he knocked 2 into the pit. I'll have to kid him after the match about that.
He almost converted this leave last week for a spare.
You're absolutely right. Spread eagle's tough enough, but when you get the 5-pin in the middle, the 3 and the 2-pin seem to jump across a little easier. Well, disappointing 7. 17 through 2 for Mike Morgan. A little different than his start last week when he opened up with 3 consecutive spares.
And now Scott Rondelli, fireballing lefty. Wow. Oof. Now you know what we mean. Scott is actually making only his 3rd appearance on Stars and Strikes, and all of them have come this season. He was the number 2 seed back on January 15th and threw a 410, only to lose to Bob
Watch
Mazer.
out. Whoa.
Just catches it.
Well, at the opening of the show, or the end of, watch this now, the wood almost snaps in front of the 10-pin, just catches it. If there is a, quote, rookie of the 6 bowlers, Scott Rondelli would be the one, only because he hasn't had a lot of TV experience. But everyone starts someplace, and he's here, and he's earned his right to be here. So a lot of times that works in his favor. Maybe some little of the pressure is off, saying, hey, listen, I'm bowling against some veteran Candlepin bowlers. Maybe they don't expect me to do that well. I'll show them. And it could work out to his favor.
Well, both of these guys appeared twice this season, and they qualified for the Tournament of Champions on their 2nd try.
Well, that in itself has something to say about it. I don't know if you ever get used to, I don't care who the bowler is, how many times they're in front of the cameras, I don't know if you ever get totally relaxed up there. Scott Rondelli has surely got the credentials. He's got a high single of 210.
But don't call him Shirley. He really hates that. Punching out 3, looking for the conversion, and leaves the 10-pin. Well, you just get the feeling that Mike has a chance no matter what he throws that first ball, because he throws such a lively ball that those pins dancing across the deck. Mike Morgan, back in December, came in as the number 4 seed, won 3 matches in a row, and then lost the ladder championship match to Pat Pay. And then a month later, Mike again qualified, only as the number 1 seed that time. And he came from 56 pins down to beat Bob Mazer and qualify for this tournament. And he slides by the 5-pin.
A little farther to the left, he would have capped the wood, and the wood would have carried the ball into the 5-pin. A little farther right, he would have got the 5-pin clean. And early mistake by Mike Morgan, missing the 5-pin for a spare.
Talked about Scott Rondelli here in January with that frustrating 424 to 410 loss to Bob Mazer. But then in April, Scott came back, was the number 1 seed that time. His opponent was Scott Richardson, and Scott Rondelli actually had a fairly easy time of it. He got a big start. He was off to he got a 155 first game, and cruised on to a win with a 398 triple.
I inadvertently said at the beginning of the show that he does some of his bowling at Londonderry Bowling Center, which I was quite wrong. He bowls out of the Sudbury Bowling Center in Sudbury, Massachusetts.
Scott works in Ayer, Mass. at New Car Carriers. From Billerica, we have 2 residents of Billerica in this Tournament of Champions. Bob Moran is the other.
Oh, boy. Woo! No doubt about that one. Dead in the 1-2 pocket, and there's just no way those 10 pins were going to stand up. Watch this. That was on slow motion.
Honest.
Mike Morgan still looking for his first mark. I mentioned last week about the mental strain on the bowlers. Now, he was in a tough match last week with Paul Berger. I wonder sometimes if it doesn't take a little bit of the concentration out of the bowler.
Oh, big spare pickup.
That's what he needs to loosen himself up a little bit.
He's been kind of ineffective on the first ball, but that'll help.
Got to try to put the crowd, or his crowd, into the game a little bit, and that means a big fill. Well, through the middle, 3, 6, 10 on the right with the 2 and the 4 on the left, 5 fill, 42 through, or 52 through 5.
Speaking of crowds, we have just a terrific one here for the tournament. Last week and again this week. $10 for Mike, but only 25 for the 2. And Scott Rondelli comes up working on a strike in the 4th, and he already leads by 10. Boy, another solid first ball.
Very close to a double. 5-9, both of them a rocking piece of wood nestled right in next to the 5 and 9. No problem there. Spare on strike.
Chance for Scott to further increase his lead. Boy, he's right in there again. The 9 drop leaving the 5. And the lead now is 24.
This little guy doesn't want to be too high in the wood, though. No problem. 3 in a row now for Scott Rondelli. Off to a great opening game. Whoa, there's a break when the 5 went down and took the 7-2.
Boy, that got better in a hurry, didn't it?
Right here, it looks like the 5-7. Here goes the 5 and right into the 7 pin. How to turn a split into a strike. Looking for 2.
A little light. Leaves the 2-5-10.
He wants to be the left of the 2 pin. Slide the 2 into the 5 and hopefully over into the 10.
Nope, a little too full on it. Boy, he went for it. He was not going for a single. He went for the shot that time and takes an $8.
A 24-pin lead for Scott Rondelli. He's going to increase it with this ball. Right in there again. And a big 9-pin drop, leaving the 5-pin, waving, negotiating the wood. Get out of the way.
Boy, he could just as easily have 3 or 4 strikes in a row here.
It's a testy piece of wood. He wants to be below the red line. Right on the red line. 4 in a row. Matches a spare up in the 7th by Mike Morgan, or a strike up in the 8th by Mike Morgan. Oh boy, whew. Unbelievable. Right in the pocket. 3 solid 9-pin drops on the other side of a strike. As you said, could have been just as easily 4 strikes in a row. Ooh.
And he missed one.
First mistake. The ball just didn't break back. Now here's a prime example of getting pumped up a little too much. Throw the ball a little too hard so it doesn't react, doesn't break from left to right for you because you throw with a little more speed. Got to stay within himself. What got you there will keep you there. 124.
Does have a 36-pin lead, though, here early.
Well, the bowler up there now has been there before. We go back several weeks ago when he bowled against Bob Mazer. He found himself down considerably and came roaring back himself.
Mike keeping an eye on the wood. It appears to be in pretty favorable position, but he's just waiting for it to stop rolling on the 4-7.
Going to take both pieces of wood, the one farthest to the right. Uh-oh. Ooh, a hop, skip, and a spare. Thought he dropped that ball prematurely, and I thought it was going to go by to the right. Spare up in the 9th.
Boy, Mike would love to throw the big bomb right here and get a little extra in the 10th.
In between, good break there when the 6-10 went down. Leads himself to 2-4, and he tries to nudge that wood to turn a little bit. He's just going to try to power the ball right straight through the wood, and hopefully it won't fly over the 4-pin. Uh-oh, he missed it altogether. Well, both bowlers making some crucial mistakes early in the match. And that's what he wanted to do.
It'll be a 116 opening game for Mike Morgan. So Scott Rondelli already knows that he will have the lead. Just a question of how much.
And really could make some hay if he put some marks up here in the 9th and the 10th. Well, 7 and 9. All kinds of possibilities. After the wood settles down, he's going to have himself a shot. Well, you go after the 7, but I think you maybe want to be closer to the... No, it carried all right. Thought maybe that first piece would swing away from the 9-pin, but the replay, no problem. Spare up in the 9th. 134 with a ball to come.
Looks to be a 150 game at least for Scott Rondelli,
wow.
And he almost had another strike.
Another 9-pin drop.
He'll have a clear shot at the 7-pin.
And he gets it.
Boy, this is a terrific opening game for Scott Rondelli. He is putting the pressure on immediately.
Not bad. Not bad. 153 with a ball.
This will be his best string on Stars and Strikes.
Don't forget that opening in the 8th. He just slid by the 6-pin. And another, hey, he finally gets one. Sure, now it comes, he says, the last box. Strike on spare. 163
for Scott Rondelli. We'll get another look at that strike. Scott Rondelli has the lead after 1. An explosive first string for the left-hander. We'll be back with more in a minute. Their efforts. And these will be our last new shows for the season. When we crown our Tournament of Champions winner in 3 more weeks, we'll be taking a break for the summer. Spare for Mike Morgan in the 3rd.
Slowly, he climbs back into the match. Spread eagle, 4 horsemen. 1, 2, 4 when the 7 finally goes down. You saw the replay. Matches a spare in the 3rd by Scott Rondelli.
Want to be quick to point out, however, that although we'll be finishing the season of new shows as Mike leaves a wobbling 4-pin, we will feature rebroadcasts of some of this past season shows during the summer months. So Stars and Strikes will still be here every Sunday. 2 spares in a row for Mike Morgan, and we'll take a timeout as Mike has some work to do to climb back into this one. We'll be back with more in a minute. Scott Rondelli in the lead, just about at the halfway point. The bucket. First one of those we've had in a while.
3, 5, 6, and the 9-pin in the back.
The wood will help, and it did come off the wall, but a little too deep to carry the 6-pin. I want to point out also that for any of you who may miss some of the action during the Tournament of Champions will be rebroadcast late in the summer, immediately prior to the new season in the fall of 1989.
Well, Scott cooled off considerably so far in the 2nd game. 54 at the halfway point, and now through the middle.
Up until then, though, he was still throwing a devastating first ball. Want to thank Nick Muskilly, the owner and proprietor here at Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, for all of his support throughout the season, and also for providing the shirts, as he always does, for the bowlers, and very sharp-looking navy shirts new for this series. You can see they say Stars and Strikes Champion.
Of course, signifying their ladder championship that they've earned to get here to this Tournament of Champions. Off target, but not a bad break. 6 pins. He's in 59, and he's chopped 14 pins off Scott's lead.
Slid to the right. And a 9 box for Mike. So halfway through the match right now, and the lead for Scott Rondelli is 33. Mike's a little full, but he carries the extra pin or two. He's done that a couple of times.
Leaves himself to 3-6-10, but he's got some challenging wood out in front. His problem, as I look at it, seems to be going to be with the 10 pin.
Oh,
There it is.
You're here again today, so I assume you did not win Megabucks last night.
Well, I don't really know yet, but I would come anyways. Because they're our sponsor. One of our main sponsors anyways. Which people continue to watch Candlepin Stars and Strikes, and we attract some very fine sponsors. That's all to the caliber of bowlers that we're having and the excitement that we show on TV 50.
We're going to have Dottie Laura check a piece of deadwood which is out near the right channel. It probably will not. Actually, Scott will probably be thankful if it's there. He may play it.
Yeah, I think that's out, though.
Yeah, it is out. That's actually too bad, because that might have been a good opportunity to make something happen.
Yeah, he needs one of Earl Anthony's bowling balls now to convert this. I also like to mention the quality of TV coverage that WNDS shows its community. So you're all to be congratulated.
Well, as it has been since we came on the air more than 5 years ago now, Stars and Strikes continues to be the highest rated program on TV 50, and we certainly want to thank all of you for supporting the program and making that happen. We appreciate it.
Three, 6, 10, 2, 4, 8 on the other side.
There'll be 2 more opens for Scott Rondelli. Mike Morgan knows he can't let too many of these chances slip by.
He doesn't look like he's bowling that much different either. You know, your 163 opening game, quarter of an inch down at the end of the lanes means all the difference in the world sometimes. Mike Morgan is just thinking marks, strikes, spares. He's giving me a chance to get back into this.
Leaves the 5-10. He will perhaps have an angle on that wood.
He's going to shoot right at the red line of the wood next to the 5-pin, and hopefully he'll jump the 5-pin into the 10.
Let's
like
see.
that. Almost.
No. Had the right idea. Runner-up in this week's match will receive a check for $200 and a version of the Tournament of Champions runner-up plaque from the N&R Trophy Company of Winchendon, Mass. The winner goes on one step closer to the championship to face Ed Arsenal next week. Oh,
ball.
Big hit that time from Mike Morgan. He actually had a backup on that ball a little bit.
Yep, that ball, he does. When he gets a good follow through, you can see that ball break from left to right, and that time it broke right into the 1-2 pocket. His ball reacts similar to the way Scott Rondelli does, but except Mike is the right-hander. That time, Scott crossed over in the 1-3 pocket, and you can actually see the pins pick up and go over that cluster of 5 pins left. So he's have a tough mark in the 9th. And not to be.
All of a sudden, it's just not happening for Scott. He opened this game as he did the first, or throughout the first, with a lot of solid first ball drops. But he has not been able to convert the spares as often as he'd like, and now he's not on target on the first ball either as much as he would like to be. See if he can correct it back over here on lane 31.
Oh boy.
Straight through the center
Right
that
through the
time.
middle. And he's going to reach the point if Mike puts another mark up. Going to start hearing a little footsteps behind him. 47-pin lead was the lead that Scott had. Nice try on the spread eagle by Scott Rondelli. He had 47-pin lead coming in. And I think Mike was thinking if I could get half of them back would be great. But to get 30 or 35 would be ideal, and he's going to have a shot at doing that.
Just a 103 for Scott Rondelli in the middle string with a 266 total for 2. So Mike Morgan steps up here in a pretty good position. He's working on a strike. He will cut the lead under 30 with this fill, and he's opposite 2 open frames.
Off target. Not a bad break, but missed the head pin. 1-2-7 left.
No wood. He'll have to hit it. Let's see. He plays it outside. No, he was somewhere in the middle there. And
In between.
Yep.
It's an 8 fill. But more important for Scott Rondelli, it's not another mark.
Well, he's cut 22 pins off the lead, so he's got almost half of it back. And if he were to mark here, I would cut the lead under 20 going to the final string.
That's a good ball.
Boy.
Now that time he actually dropped the ball a little bit. Otherwise, I think he would have had the spread eagle, or he would have been full in the head pin. But the drop of the ball just took enough off it, and you saw the result, tripping the 6 pin for the strike in the 10th.
How big is that? We'll know later, I guess.
Well, coming in, if he's 47 down, if he said I'm going to be under 20 after the second game, I think he would have said thank you very much.
Watch out.
And make it a 9 fill on the strike. Played it safe and got as many as he could.
So he gets 31 back, 250 for Mike Morgan through 2. The lead is 16 now for Scott Rondelli with 1 string to go as the Tournament of Champions rolls on after these words.
Okay, before we get back to the action, $60 in the bonus ball contest, and the only way you can win is to send us a postcard, and postcards only in normal size, none of those big jobs that Doug sends in. Yeah, they get in the way.
Yeah.
Just put a number from 1 to 10 on the back of the postcard and your name and address, and mail it to Park Place Lanes, Route 28, Windham, New Hampshire, 03038, and maybe you'll be a winner. And Mike Morgan's up. Start of the third game, down by 16 pins. Okay, you're screaming at home. It's 03087. All right. They told me in the truck I wouldn't do it right. Everything but the 10 pin for Mike Morgan. And I would say Mike has the momentum right now.
A difficult single for the right-hander, and he's got it. That's his 9th mark. He had 16 marks last week in beating Paul Berger. Oh, right through the middle for a 4.
That was nice and smooth. I mentioned the strike the last game. He actually bounced the ball. It takes a little bit off. The ball's not in contact with the lane long enough, so it doesn't have time to break back. That time, nice and smooth, broke back flush in the head pin. So he's going to have to make an adjustment. Either use a little more speed, straighten the ball out, or change the angle on the pin so he can get back in that pocket, especially on lane 31.
Scott Rondelli has 9 marks also, but he had 8 of them in the first string.
In some pretty fair fills. Lowest being, what, 8? Wow.
Fortunately for Scott, even though he wasn't marking in that second string, he was pinning pretty well. He had 6 10 boxes in that second game.
A sign of a good bowler. Just got to work with what you have.
He had nothing below a 9. And now he's right back in the soup again with this box.
He's got looking at the 4-7, 5 in the center of the lane, and the 6-10 on the right.
First box he's had below a 9 all day.
And there it quickly goes 7 more pins of that lead.
Oh, and a half Worcester. Boy, that first string must seem like a year ago right now to Scott Rondelli.
I guess that's one way to analyze it. That's pretty good. Yeah, about a year ago.
So the lead in the match for Scott now is down to 9. Unlike last week, Mike Morgan has to finish first this week. So Scott will know what he needs when he comes up for those final 2, if it comes down to that. Couldn't even hear Mike put that ball down on the lane, and he gets another break carrying the 4-pin.
Look out.
And look at the wood now. I'd like to have a bunch of those in a television match. It turned a little bit more, but it still looks pretty favorable.
Yeah, he's above the red line. The 10-pin may be the problem, but...
like you said.
There's only 2 things in life that are sure, and we know what those are. And it's not the 10-pin. Spare up in the 3rd by Mike Morgan.
A little thin, but watch the mix. And how about this for a leave? Now we got a pin coming up off the deck. It'll be the 2 and the 9. And Dottie's going to have to get her running shoes on again. You don't see this leave very often. The 2 and the 9.
2 and the 9, and a piece of wood nestled in next to the 2. So I think he's going to have to take a piece of the pin and the 2-pin at the same time, and hopefully that wood will carry the 9.
Might want to kind of yell over to Dottie and ask her exactly how much distance there is between the wood and the pins, because she got a good look at it when she went down there.
I don't think that's covered in the official rules book. Can a pin chaser relay information? That's interesting.
Let's see.
There it is. Yes. Exactly that. Nice shot. Clutch mark. Pinning the wood at the same time to carry the 9, and that's a tough mark. And a clutch mark for Mike Morgan. He's making a real run now at Scott Rondelli.
Oh, and Scott is right back in the pocket that time, but look at the result.
Well, he's going to have a shot. He's got the 7-9 and a couple pieces of wood. It's looking better by the minute. Whoops, wait, hold on.
There's what he sees.
He's motioning back out. He's going to have a shot. I was going to say what he needs is a strike, just to loosen it up. And that was a good ball. He's just not carrying the extra. Oh, watch out.
Oh, my.
No, he knew it. He went too far left in that. He was trying to use both pieces of wood and carry the ball off the wood for the 9. Crucial miss there. 24 through 3.
Dead even right now. The match is dead even. Oh, Another one. This time the 3, 9, and 10.
Another pretty good ball going in. 3, 9, 10. He had the 7-pin up. And now the wood rolls out, so he's going to have to use the 3, 10, and 9 clean. So it's always a tough shot, a nice shot.
That was a terrific shot by Scott Rondelli, particularly to end the drought. We are dead even with 6 boxes to go. We'll be back to finish it out on Stars and Strikes in a minute. We have 6 boxes to go, and we are tied.
Who would ever thought, after 47-pin lead after the first game for Scott Rondelli, that we'd be even with 6 frames, 3 main. Another nail biter. It's like last week.
This is on a spare. A little light, but watch out. Boy, Mike just seems to have that ability to carry the extra pin.
Now you got to be careful because there is a second piece of wood that is facing us in between the 5 and the 8. So the front piece is going to come in contact with that first. No problem.
That threw it. That's 3 marks in a row.
You just see that piece of wood, but didn't hurt the shot at all. That temporarily gives him a lead of 8. Scott is still going to fill his spare up in the 4th.
Oh, yes.
9.
Taking out the 5-pin.
And he's clicking on all cylinders right now. Nice and smooth. He looks to me like he moved a little farther to the right on the approach. Give him a different angle coming in. He's hitting the 1-3 pocket now. Solid 7-pin. He's got it.
4 in a row for Mike Morgan. And he's really turning the gas up on Scott Rondelli. Scott, with that fine spare shot right before the break, snapped a drought of 10 consecutive markless boxes. So he's going to have to keep it going here, too, if he wants to keep pace with Mike Morgan.
Missing the head pin. 6 fill, 40. That leaves him down by 4, but he's opposite a spare 9 spare. Down by 2.
Oh, my.
Tough break.
Deserved a better fate on that one.
Make it a 10. 50 through 5. Light hit. Well, he got the 9 to go.
And he's got 3-pin, which may or may not be frozen. I don't know about that wood in back. I don't think it's frozen.
Well, if he's going to miss it, he better miss it a 1.5 foot to the left. That'll kick it forward, but he won't be that far off it. Now, see, it was in between. He was in between. If he had missed it further to the left, he would have snapped the wood backwards, but he hit it right in the center. And obviously, he wasn't doing that. He was shooting right at the 3-pin. It's all in Mike Morgan's hands right now.
Well, Mike, not including this fill, leads by 12. So he has a chance to push the lead over 20 with 4 boxes remaining.
Right back in the pocket.
That piece of wood should be legal. It's partially on the plate.
I think he asked Dottie to take a look at it, which is perfectly all right, but I agree with you, Doug. I think it's going to be all right.
It is in fair play.
Now, he's got a couple choices here. He can hit that piece of wood on the cap. He can actually get by it and clip the 2 pins clean, or possibly hit the 5-pin, because he's got that other piece of wood that could kick forward to carry the 2. 3 choices. Going right at the cap, and he is sharp right now.
Wow, 5 in a row now for Mike Morgan.
And he is real sharp. Had to cap this perfectly, right straight back. Great shot. 5 spares in a row, 6 in this game.
There aren't many times when you want to hit the cap. There are times when you hit it unintentionally, but...
Oh, right back in the 1-2 pocket this time.
Oh, look out. Yeah,
Boy, I'll tell you what, Mike has been thin on the pocket practically every time in this third game, but he has really been carrying very well. And again, he's got a piece of wood that he may have to cap. That is certainly in play.
Well, that is the nature of this house, too. If you can hit light and keep those pins in play, you're going to get a lot of break off the walls. Here he's got the 10 pin. He's going to have to cap that wood. No, not quite this time.
Well, Mike got the first one off the cap, but this time it didn't work out for him. Let's get another look.
Yeah, had it right on the cap, and this time he's just on the side of it and went right to the right side wall and in front of the 10 pin, as you saw. Scott Rondelli needs marks.
Oh, and he's right through the center.
Oh, didn't miss that by much. Interesting where he has the 2, 4, and 7, and the 3 and 6 plays the left side. Now he had the opposite side, 3, 6, 10, and the 2, 4, and he also went in the 3, 6, 10 side. I always contend to go with the least number of pins because you always have a chance of cutting the 2 into the 10 or the 3 into the 7 and coming back. And again, right flush in the head pin, and he just can't buy a spare leave now. You wonder what happens. On opening game of 163, seems like he's throwing the ball the same. Nice try. But it's just a little more or a little less speed, a little different angle that he's approaching the pins on. Something was just a little different than he did the first game, and just wasn't able to make that adjustment.
Well, Mike Morgan has a 31-pin lead with 2 boxes to go. He has come all the way back. That is a 78-pin turnaround.
Incredible. But as we mentioned, he did it against Bob Mazur.
And he also, with a mark in one of these final 2 boxes, will continue his incredible streak.